Uh, Good morning. Have a seat. So, good morning. This Friday and Saturday was the 114th convention of the Episcopal Diocese of Olympia. It was held in Tacoma at the Convention Center, and Mary and Martha, your delegates, and I, as your priest, we met with delegates and clergy from all across the diocese to talk church. Some of the time was spent doing business of the church, where we talked about parochial reports and assessments, but there was so much more. We spent time with our new bishop, Philip LaBelle, and we heard him speak to us and preach to us. And it was really our first opportunity to be with Bishop Phil for any extended period of time and to really hear about the things that are important to him. And so this morning, I want to share some of the things that I heard. And then at announcements, I've asked Mary and Martha to each share something that stuck out to them. And grab them at Oktoberfest, because I think they both said to me, "What do you mean one thing?" So we could easily cover, lots of time here. So grab a brat, some pretzels, and Mary and Martha. So in church circles, there is a lot of conversation about the decline of the church. I actually hate this rhetoric because I think that the church has such an important role to play in our community and in our own lives. I'm not ready to cede the vitality of the church to modernity. I think that the bishop might agree. So rather than talking about the decline of Christianity of the church or looking at the graphs that show the leadership roles going down, Bishop Phil talked about the decline of Christendom instead of the decline of the church or the decline of Christianity. He started out by sharing a cartoon. It looked to be like in the early Christian era, and there were signups where people would call you. No, there were signups where people were signing up to fight the lions, right? So it was like Christians signing up to fight the lions. And I thought, oh, that's the worst sign-up genus I've ever seen. But he shared this cartoon to remind us that in the early church, the early followers of Jesus were signing up to be disciples. They were signing up to be disciples of Jesus and to be followers on the way. And that decision had real consequences, including a potential close encounter with a lion or a cross. Being a Christian for the first 300 years after Jesus was risky. But people chose the way because they were compelled by a message of love, and they were inspired by lives lived in a radical commitment to others. It wasn't until 318 that Christians were allowed to worship without fear of prosecution. So in that year, Constantine placed the Chi Rho, Christian symbol, on the shields of soldiers. The soldiers were going into battle. And he did this to give them confidence, that his military victory was their divine service. And he won. He won the battle, which made him the emperor of the Western Roman Empire.
Hi.
Hello.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it is.
Amy?
Totally.
All right, thanks. It's all very good. It's all good. So, but this is actually, it's a really important time in history, right? So up until this moment, to be a Christian was a scary time. But once Constantine made it part of military service, part of what it was to be recognized by the emperor, it changed. And so all of a sudden, after this victory, Constantine made it where there was tolerance of Christians. You couldn't persecute someone just because they were a Christian. And in 380, Theodosius I declared Christianity to be the official state of religion of the Roman Empire. And this decree mandated Christianity as the empire's official faith. further integrating it into the Roman state and setting the stage for the church's central role in society during the era of Christendom. So Christianity became a part of civic life for the Western world. And for generations, Christianity has been supported by and used by kings and governments. And in the US, while we have many faiths here, it's pretty easy to be a Christian, right? For years, it was just sort of expected. It was part of being a good family. Every Sunday, mom, dad, and the kids would load up the station wagon and head to church, followed by some Sunday lunch, maybe the Sunday pot roast. These are the times on the charts of church membership that were at the peaks of before the current decline. Everyone went to church. It was just expected. There were not other activities planned for Sunday morning. There were no youth sports on Sunday morning. The stores were closed, and there was nowhere else to be other than church. And this was civic church. It doesn't mean that there weren't people who were radically changed by Christianity during that time, because of course there were, but you didn't have to be. And as times continue to today, people don't go to church in the same numbers. You don't have to. You can be a good family and never go to church. So Bishop Phil argued that Christendom asks very little of us. That in the current era, we have this focus on church membership rather than on discipleship. And membership, well, as he said, if you come to church 3 times a year and you're known by your treasurer, you're a member. And that's just not very transformative. So in a time when church membership is declining, perhaps instead of thinking that the church or Christianity is dying, perhaps it's civic Christianity that is dying. Christendom, the state-sponsored Christianity, may be coming to an end. And I think that may be okay. Bishop Phil challenged us to think about what that meant for our churches, for our communities. He asked the question, what is the church that you yearn for? I'll say that again, because it is hard to say. What is the church that you yearn for, that we yearn for? And I hope today that is a question that every parish in this diocese is thinking about. And I want us here at St. Clare's to think about that too. What is the church that we yearn for? We are luckier than most. We have a very healthy church. We have a church that's deeply interested in serving our community. And I'll tell you, many weeks when I'm preparing my sermon, I get to the place where I talk about how we're going to serve our community and how we're going to be Jesus in the streets. And I just stop and say, check. We're doing that. And we are. But we should always welcome the challenge of what our next 20 years looks like. What is the church that we yearn for, that our community yearns for? Bishop Phil shared a quote from a book by Anthony Robinson called Changing the Conversation, a Third Way for Congregation. And I haven't read this book. I'm going to, and actually I would be interested in reading it with people in the congregation if anybody else wants to read it together. It's after you listen to this quote, tell me if this sounds interesting to you. So this book answered the question, what is the church that you long for this way? The church that I long for is a place where I can meet and be met by a God whose presence, power, mystery, and mercy are real, palpable, and life-changing. Is there a church where they don't simply talk about God as an interesting concept that provides a stained glass backdrop for middle-class morality, but where people experience God and where faith is a relationship to be confessed and celebrated? I love this. Meet and be met by a God whose presence, power, mystery, and mercy are real and palpable and life-changing. That is what I want to be. Bishop Phil challenged us to think about our churches in this way. Rather than thinking about membership, focus on discipleship. He must have said that 20 times. How are lives being changed at and through your church? He said to make discipleship, not size or length of membership, the focus. He suggested that when we introduce ourselves to each other at a church function, the question should not be, how long have you attended St. Clare's? But when is the last time you were challenged in your faith? What has been rewarding in your life with Jesus? And to force us to think about this more, Bishop Phil had us do some individual journaling and then share with our team and then share with the greater table that we were sitting around. And the 3 questions he asked us to journal. 1, when did you have a glimpse of the realm of Christ? What did it look like? And how did you experience it? 2, what is Jesus up to already in your wider community? And 3, what is distracting you or your parish from the mission of the church to live fully into the way of Jesus? These exciting questions. And I think one of the great things about having a new bishop is that we will be challenged to look at our ministry and our life as a church with fresh eyes. What ways does St. Clare's embody a radical commitment to this way of Jesus in our personal lives and lived out in the community? These questions were supported by being able to hear from other churches about how they were answering the needs of their communities and how they were being disciples of Christ. And I would love to see us have a booth or a workshop next year to talk about how other churches could set up the Essentials ministry. You know, we have learned so much in the last 4 years, and I really think that the work that is being done there could help other churches serve their communities in significant ways. So I think that is a story that we have to tell, and maybe some skills that we could infuse to other churches and to help build up the way they serve their communities. One of the ministries that we heard about was the work at St. Luke's Ballard. So this project has been going on for several years, so you likely have heard about it. But St. Luke's, they're building affordable housing. They have an 8-story building that is going to offer both affordable housing and also some units at market price to create some subsidization so that it is a financially sustainable project. The church will be located on the bottom floor of this 8-story building, along with a daycare and a nursery. The church becomes a resource hub for this community. Providing affordable housing is how they are being disciples in their community. In today's gospel, Jesus asks Bartimaeus, "What do you want for me to do?" This is the beginning of ministry, asking questions, seeing what is already happening inside of a community. And St. Luke's, they had several good ministries, but when they asked the community, what is it that you want? What is it that you need? The answer was affordable housing. And the people of St. Luke's, all 42 of them, which is the same size as St. Clare's, said, let's do this. Let's be radical disciples of Jesus. So this is the second week of our Participating in God's Story series. This week's theme is transformative love. I am not ready to cede the role of the church in our lives and in the lives of our community. I think we have important work to do, and I have no interest in being the place that is, I checked the box, I came to church, I'm a good person. I'm excited about the challenge that Bishop Phil has. Celebrate church as a place of transformative love and radical discipleship. Bishop Phil's vision challenges us to move beyond the notion of attendance and membership as markers of faith. Instead, let's focus on being a place where lives are changed, where people encounter the powerful, mysterious, and life-altering presence of God, and where faith drives us into deeper connection with our community and with each other. We are already involved in so much community service and are living out this call in so many ways. And we should celebrate and continue this work for sure. But we should never be so quick to reflect on the work that we are doing that we blind ourselves to future possibilities. St. Clare's has proven that it is a little church with a big heart that can do great things. I'm excited for how we will continue to make St. Clare's a place where God's love not only transforms us, but reaches through us to touch the world around us in ways that we have yet to imagine.